This is the Aftermarket Radio Network. It's your Weekly Blitz with Chris, keeping you in the game.
Are you ready to supercharge your auto repair business? This is Coach Chris Cotton from AutoFix-Auto Shop Coaching. The Weekly Blitz is where industry expertise and business innovation collide, revving your engines for the week ahead. Every episode has game-changing insights, up-to-the-minute industry updates, and practical tips to shift your business into high gear. We're talking about stuff you didn't even know you didn't know, folks. This episode is brought to you by Shop Marketing Pros, the experts in marketing for top-tier auto repair shops. If you're running a successful shop and want to take it to the next level, Shop Marketing Pros is without a doubt your best option. From websites and SEO to social media and digital ads, Shop Marketing Pros help shop owners just like you fill your bays, grow your revenue, and build the life you've always been working for. Are you ready to take the guesswork out of your marketing? If so, I want you to visit shopmarketingpros.com/Chris to get a free digital marketing inspection and start building the shop of your dreams today. Hey, everybody, I'm excited. Most of the time, you're used to me just blabbing on, talking into the world and not talking to actually anybody. But today, I have Jim Parker from the Auto Repair Boss with us, and we're going to talk about selling your auto repair shop. Super excited to have you on board, Jim. I'm glad you reached out to me. Can you tell me just a little bit about yourself and then maybe why you decided to niche down into the auto repair industry?
Yeah, absolutely. Coach Chris, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so I've been helping people sell businesses for nearly 25 years now. So I've been doing it quite a while. I have sold all different types of businesses in my career. Coach Chris, I don't feel very comfortable always talking about myself, but I've been around the block. I've instruct both for the International Business Brokers Association and the Business Brokers of Florida. I've spoken across the country to numerous state and regional associations, probably 8 to 10 state and regional business broker associations now. Won over 50 awards in the industry. And I'm really proud, really happy because I'm the incoming chairman in 2026 for the International Business Brokers Association, where we have 3,000 members. So I'm excited about that. But I got into specializing in auto repair because I love the industry. I've just sold a lot over the years. And I love the industry itself. I love the people that tend to own that type of a business. I think it's something that is going to be protected both from AI and from Amazon. And I think that was a big thing. And I think what's going to be happening in my industry over the next 10 years, we're going to see more and more brokers specializing in certain industries. I mean, it's always existed since I've been a broker, but I think what we're going to see over the next 10 years is it's going to go from a very small percentage to that most brokers will be specializing in industries like that.
And I think that's great. I see a lot of times, I evaluate a lot of businesses for other shop owners. I've evaluated some for me to purchase. One of the things that I notice with business brokers is they don't understand our industry at all. And you start looking at the numbers and you're like, man, it's great you have those numbers, but they have nothing to do with what we're talking about. So to have somebody that specializes in it and can kind of speak towards that and guide the people through the process, I think that's really great. Can you talk a little bit about, since COVID, or during COVID, I should say, people were like, man, auto repair is essential. And we've had all this private equity money coming into our industry. Can you talk a little bit about that at all? Do you have any insight?
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, I don't know if you know this, but private equity has grown 400% in the last 15 years. So there's more and more private equity groups out there than there ever has been. And it just keeps on growing. And they're out there in certain industries trying to consolidate certain industries. And you're going to see like roofing is really big right now. HVAC is really big. And obviously, like you said, auto repair related businesses are really big, especially with collision centers. That's like huge with private equity. What's happening right now is a lot of private equity groups, or I should say national companies that are backed by private equity, are reaching out directly to the business owner and asking if they want to sell. And if they want to sell, to reach out and talk to auto shop owners all the time. And, it's one of the questions that I end up asking is, people are reaching out and they're like, yeah. So it's like almost everybody out there is getting letters or phone calls from these private equity groups, these national brands. This is the point that I want to really drill home. Do not, if you own a business and you are getting contacted by a private equity group, I know it could be exciting, but remember this. They look into a couple thousand businesses a year, and they may only like look deeper into a couple hundred and then only usually buy, I shouldn't say usually, but this is a typical private equity play, only buy maybe 1 to 10 businesses a year. So they're looking at a ton, they only buy a few. And this is the thing, they're professional buyers.
Right.
Yes, this is what they do every day is they're out there buying businesses or looking into buying businesses. So as a business owner, you're like an amateur boxer getting into the ring with a heavyweight boxer. I mean, this is what these people do for a living. And I'm not saying that they're necessarily going to take advantage of you, but are they not going to give you everything that you want or that they would if you were going to the open market? And this is the other thing is that is it better to negotiate with one potential buyer or is it better to get your business, if you're really serious about selling your business, getting it out there to as many buyers as you possibly can and letting the marketplace dictate what the sales price and the terms of your business is going to be and trying to negotiate one-on-one? I mean, just think about it. Negotiation is if you have to have the cards in order to negotiate properly. Or you're bluffing.
Yeah.
And I'd rather have the cards than bluff.
Well, and I think as a business owner, coach, and whatever, obviously they want to get the biggest return on investment they can. I don't think there's any middle ground in what they're looking for. They're either looking for great businesses that have all their ducks in a row and they can just buy it and just let them go, or they're looking for a business like I would look at that the margins are low, almost like a coaching client, something that I could go in, buy in. And basically, if you think about it or equate it to, it's almost like house flipping, right? Like you go in, you take this old battered and beaten structure, you fix it up, you make it run, you've got the numbers ready, and then you're good to go. I wish we knew how many shops out there were for sale currently, like if you took across everything or even publicly or privately, because there's a lot of shops that you can walk into and be like, hey, are you guys for sale? And they're like, well, I never thought about it. Maybe you could get somebody interested in that.
Well, walk in and ask them if they're for sale. They may be for sale and they're just not telling you. Because one of the biggest things is obviously, and you know this, Chris, we want to keep the sale confidential. You don't want anybody to know that the business is actually for sale. But you know what's funny? I know what you're saying. I would be curious to know, too, how many auto repair related businesses are for sale. And that's really hard to dictate. But I can tell you this, that only 10 to 20% of the businesses out there are going to actually sell. That's according to Forbes. So you got to be prepared to sell, and you want to be part of that 80, 90% that are going to sell. And this is the thing, even if you're not thinking about selling your business, you should have your business in a position where it can sell at any given time.
All the time.
Yeah, because according to the Exit Planning Institute, 50% of all business sales are unplanned sales. And they're like the 5 Ds: divorce, disagreement with an owner, there's a death, a disability, divorce. There's something unexpected that happened that makes the owner want to sell. And, I hear it all the time. I'll talk to a business owner and be like, oh, I'll never sell. And then 6 months, a year later, they're calling me up and they're like, Jim, I've got to sell. Something happened in my personal life and I have to sell.
And I want to come back to that. But I also want to say there's a lot of places that just go by the wayside. Like about a year ago, I went to Denver to call on some shops. And 3 out of the 5 shops that I went to call on were no longer in business. One had been leveled and they were turning it into a car wash. The other one, they just put a sign on the door and said, we've retired and gone away. And it was just sitting there. And then the third one was, it had already been changed. Like it had been leveled and turned into a storage facility. So, which is great for people in the business because anytime a reduction in bays, then it makes all of our shops worth more. But it's just really hard to see all those shops going away. I've also had the situation recently where somebody called me up and was like, hey, Chris, my business sucks. I hate it. I want out. And I'm like, okay, how prepared are you for this? And they're like, well, I just decided yesterday. And then I start talking about taxes and they haven't filed their taxes from 3 years ago. And then there's no income statement, whatever. So can you talk about being prepared to sell your business and what that looks like?
Yeah. I think the number one thing that I see when I talk to business owners is they're running tons of personal expenses through the business. They're trying to save on taxes. And look, Chris, I'm not a new person around the block. I've been doing this a long time. I've been a business owner my entire adult life. I understand what's happening. I'm not here to judge. But the thing is, if you're going to be selling your business and you're running a lot of personal expenses through the business, that's the number one thing that I see that either prevents a business owner from being able to sell their business or getting the full price that they could have gotten if they were running those personal expenses through the business. And
Right.
I understand. So if you're in the highest tax bracket possible, for every dollar that you are writing off as a personal expense, or for every dollar that you're receiving in cash that you're not reporting on your return, if you're on the highest tax bracket, you're saving 37 cents on that dollar. And, obviously we're talking about a dollar. So if it's $100,000, it's $37,000. So it's a lot of
Right.
money. But still, it's 37 cents on that dollar. And that's if you're in the highest tax bracket. But when you go to sell that same dollar, it could be $2, $3, $4, $5 or more that you could have gotten on the sales end when you go to sell. So you're saving cents.
Right.
And when you have to go to sell, you're losing out on dollars.
What do you think the perfect time frame is? Like if I'm a forward-thinking shop owner and I want to sell my shop eventually, when should I start preparing for that sale?
But I would love for somebody did it 5 years out, started preparing for it. But I would say at least 2 years out, two full tax years before you're ready to sell. Have two really good, clean, full tax years done. And when I say that, I do want to go on record as saying you should always run your books clean, but do it at least 2 years out. And that's what the SBA lenders are typically going to be looking for to make it cash flow for at least 2 years. I prefer 5, but do it for at least 2.
From a coaching standpoint, I would agree. Like if somebody's like, hey, I'm interested in selling my shop, I'm like, yeah, we should have started like 2 years ago. If you're prepared to start now, can you wait 2.5 to 3 years to sell it? And then that goes into, all kinds of planning on who you sell it to, things like that. Do you sell it to somebody outside and list it? Do you sell it to somebody inside? For your particular company, do you ever help with people that are purchasing it from within?
Like ESOP or something like that?
Yeah, some of those types of things.
What I come in is I help sell businesses to either an individual or to a national player or to a private equity group or a combination of one of those. However, I do talk to business owners sometimes that they have an employee or they have a child that works in the business, a kid that works in the business who wants to take over the business. And, I always enjoy those conversations with that business owner where, I can give them some pointers. I can point them in the right direction for SBA lenders, because not everybody's the same out there. So you want to be with the best of the best when it comes to SBA lenders and attorneys and things like that. So I don't mind sharing names and contact information for those type of people, and I'll answer questions, but I don't get involved directly with those kind of sales.
Yep. And I will say, I looked at your YouTube channel. I forget the guy's name with Live Oak.
His name's
Ford. That's right. I remember that now, talking about Ford being in the car. But so if you're looking for resources, you can go to the Auto Repair Boss YouTube channel and watch some of those videos where you talk with Ford from Live Oak and some other people about that. So tell us a little bit, like if somebody wanted to work with you, what does that look like? How do they reach out? Things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, everything's confidential. We don't want anybody to know the business is for sale, employees, competitors, customers, suppliers. We don't want anybody to know the business is for sale. So my conversations with the business owner are strictly confidential. And we get on the phone the first time, we just talk a little bit about myself. I really want to learn a lot about them as an owner. I want to learn about their business. I want to make sure that they're really ready to sell mentally, emotionally, why they're looking to sell. And once we have a nice conversation, if we feel comfortable with each other, I offer to do a broker's opinion of value on their business. And that'll help determine what the most probable selling price of the business is. There's no cost for that. There's no obligation to use my services. And once I do that broker's opinion of value, actually, before I go back to them, I get a pre-qualified for an SBA loan if I think it's going to be an individual buying it, not a private equity group. And I go back and I present that. And if the seller wants to move forward and I want to move forward, we enter into a listing agreement. We go from there. And we have a very high success rate. The industry average is only 10 to 20% of businesses for sale out there sell. Me and my team, we sell 90% of what we take to the market. The ones we don't sell, there's usually a reason beyond our control, Chris, why we can't sell. But the one that we didn't have sell last year, we listed the business for sale and the owner mentally checked out the day that we listed the business for sale. His numbers just started to decline over the next couple months.
You got to hustle then.
Yeah. That seems to happen every couple of years. That seems to be, and then you even tell business owners, hey, my job is to sell your business. Your job is to keep the business running the same or better. And, but I guess sometimes they get too excited or like.
So like in the other cases, what happens to the ones that don't sell? Do they just close or just the owner just stays with it? Like what happens to those people?
I'm not sure because we don't deal with too many of those. The ones that I don't sell, we usually work with the seller to tell them, hey, go back and fix this issue or do this before you wait a couple of years to come back. Unfortunately, other issues that why we can't sell is because the seller, there's a skeleton in the closet the seller didn't disclose to us.
Okay.
It's always best, whether you're working with myself and my company or if you're working with another broker, if you're a business owner looking to sell, tell them all the good, the bad, and the ugly about your shop and let the broker determine when's the best time to disclose that information to potential buyers.
Okay. I also know a guy, if you ever have anybody that you're like, hey, you're not ready to sell, you can send them my way and we'll get them prepped to sell and send them back to you in like 18 months to 2 years.
Coach Chris, that's what we need. That's what we need. And I'll tell you, sometimes I talk to business owners and because I'm not a consultant, I'll look at it and go, oh, you're just not ready to sell yet. I know you really want to. You're absolutely right. Go to you, Chris, have you help get everything ready and increase those profit margins and then come back and sell your business for even more down the road beyond just keeping your financials clean. And there's a bunch of things that I can talk to them about, but there's also things that you're going to be doing as well, Chris.
Well, and I think the challenge is, especially if you're talking about, there are people in my age category, I'm 52, that are selling shops, but most of them now are like 60 and above, and they've ran the business the same way for 30, 40 years. And like you said earlier, maybe they were doing handwritten invoices and keeping all the cash, whatever it was they were doing. You don't know what you don't know until you know it. But there's a lot of things on that side of it that can be done, just efficiencies in the business, moving to a shop management system that's online, having your books kept, margins, all of that. Because there's a lot of times where you ask a shop owner like, hey, what's your parts margin? I don't know. What's your labor margin? I don't know. How do you determine what your labor rate is? Well, I just call everybody in town and just put it in the middle. And there's no basis. There's no business thoughts going on in the business. I'll give it to them. Shop owners have huge hearts and they're typically great people, but it's always them and their families that suffer typically.
Yeah.
Because all the people in the shop get paid, vendors get paid, everybody else gets paid. And as a shop owner that's struggling, can't do things with their family, won't take time off or whatever. And that's not a way to run a business either. But
Chris, I see sometimes, and it's unbelievable, but business owners don't have a database of their customers. They have a database, but with very little information. Like that is one of the most important things that buyers are going to be asking about outside of the financials. What does that database look like? How many people do you have in that database? How clean or up to date is that database? What kind of contact information? Do you have their phone number, their email address, their physical address? They want to be able to hit them from multiple different ways. So that database is huge on top of all the things that you just talked about.
Right.
You were talking about age too. More and more people in their 60s. I know I'm throwing so many stats out there, but I love stats. 40% of business owners in the United States were born before 1964. So we have this huge wave of business owners that are going to be looking to sell over the next 10 years. We're going to see the greatest transfer of personal financial wealth the world has ever seen.
Right.
It's happening right now. And the thing is, you are getting 62, 63 years old, and you're thinking about retiring, whatever age, and you're thinking about the retirement. For most business owners, most of their net worth is tied up in their business.
Right.
Yet they wait until they're like, hey, I'm ready to sell right now before they start making that plan. And like we keep talking about, just 2 or 3 years out, whether you contact me, you contact another broker, you contact you. The best scenario is contact somebody like me that's a broker and you, Chris, as a coach.
Right.
And maximize that sales price. And it starts a couple years out.
Well, and I think a lot of people, again, we're talking about shop owners that don't know their numbers. And when you ask a shop owner, like, what do you think your business is worth? Or how much do you want to get out of the business? And a lot of people just say $1 million. I want to be a millionaire, blah, blah, blah. And they don't know that, 30% of that's going to go to taxes or whatever. Again, there's no real structure to what their selling price of their business should be other than they feel like it should be worth X. And usually it's not worth X.
Or what they need.
What they need.
I need X amount of dollars to retire. Well, what you need, I understand what you need, but you also have to keep in reality of what the market is going to dictate you're going to get. Because there's a lot of shops for sale.
Again, people are like, oh, I want X, I want this. I don't know if you've listened to it, but the shop that I bought, there's been kind of documenting it in the podcast and, how I evaluated the business and what I thought it was worth and what they thought it was worth and everything else. And numbers never lie. And so you just really have to dig into the numbers and go from there, I think. But again, if you don't track and measure what your numbers are and you don't have a basis for that, then how can you do any of it?
You're absolutely right. And Chris, this is like the best scenario. If you're a couple years out from retiring and you're planning that, get a valuation done on your business.
Yep.
I do valuations for free, but get a valuation from you or, then get that done every year and get it updated. And in the meantime, work with a coach like you that's going to increase the sales. Don't wait until you're ready to retire, then be like, oh, I wonder how much my business is worth. Or wait until you're ready to retire and be like, this is how much I need. You should be thinking about that a couple years in advance so that you know, okay, this is what the most probable sales price of my business is going to be. This is what I need. So I either need to increase my shop and make my shop more money. I'm going to have to hold on to the shop a little bit longer than I wanted to make up that difference on the annual income.
Right. It's just, again, know your numbers, be ready. And a lot of times when we're talking about people in this age range, you wake up one morning and you've got cancer, something like that.
Yeah.
You wake up and your spouse has passed away. Don't wait until it's too late to try to get through, or else somebody's going to take advantage, and maybe not intentionally, but they're going to be able to take advantage of your situation because you weren't prepared.
I've got a really sad story. It's probably the worst. A few years ago, I was working with this guy. First time I talked to him, he said, Jim, the only reason I'm talking to you is because my wife is making me. And I was like, Frank, maybe you shouldn't be talking to me then. Maybe you aren't ready to sell. And he goes, I don't have a choice. I have to talk to you because of her. He goes, she retired 5 years ago. And she's been begging me for 5 years to sell and to retire myself. She goes, they wanted to travel and they want to spend more time with the grandkids. So I listed the business for sale. Really nice guy. Unfortunately, never got to meet the wife. Really nice guy. Worked with him very closely. We got along fantastic. A week before closing, he passed away unexpectedly. Not only did his wife never get that opportunity to spend that time with him, traveling in retirement that she had wanted to, but thank God that his daughter, who was an attorney at the time, used to work in the shop. And so she knew the shop. So she was able to train the new buyer. We only delayed closing by a couple weeks, and she trained him. If she would not have been there to train, not only would have the wife missed out with that time with her husband traveling and spending time with the grandkids, just spending time together, but it would have hurt her greatly from a financial perspective. It's don't wait too long. He was a great guy.
Well, and that goes back to and it's easy to play armchair quarterback, right? But what he should have done is the first time when she said, hey, I want to retire, if he knew 2 years, 3 years, 5 years before that, he should have started preparing then. That way, the day she retired, he could have sold out and retired then. Or the day she said, I'm retired, then they could have started preparing for that and went from there.
And we're talking about this, Coach Chris. We're talking about how to prepare your business for sale, but this also goes back to preparing yourself
right
for the sale. For a lot of business owners like yourself and me and the people that are listening, a lot of our identity is mixed up with our business. That's how people know us. That's how our family, friends, associates know us as this successful business person or whatever we do. It's kind of made it our aura. And then to walk away from that, sometimes it's really hard to let go of that, and you're letting go of a big part of your life. And that takes time. You should go and enjoy your retirement, go enjoy your last stage, the next stage of your life, but you've got to be ready for it mentally, emotionally.
Right. Yeah. I ask people too, when people say, hey, Chris, I'm done, I'm ready to sell, I want to retire. Then I'm like, okay, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with all this time you have? Fortunately for a lot of my shop owners, they've kind of worked themselves out of the business at that point. But when new people come to me that they've been working 70, 80 hours a week for the past 20 years, what does it look like when you don't have a shop to go to anymore, or those things? I wanted to go back just a little bit, though, and talk about the consolidation of the body shop industry. How many years ahead of us do you think they are? You look left and right, and there's, Caliber Collision bought 15 shops here, 2 shops there, 10 shops there, whatever. It almost feels like 5 years from now, you're going to have 3 companies that own all the collision shops in the United States. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the way the market's going. I think there is always going to be a place for the independent shops, and I don't think they're going to be able to completely cut them out. But I think that is where we're heading. That's heading not just in collision shops, it's heading in a lot of different industries, period. Private equity is. And I'm going to tell you, out of all the different types of buyers, if you got the right business, private equity is probably going to pay you the highest amount.
Right.
They're going to pay you more than an individual. And there are some really good private equity groups out there. There's some really bad private equity groups out there. There's private equity groups that are going to come in and, they're going to treat your employees well, and they're going to, really take care of the business, and they have good feeling behind the business. And it's more than money to them. I mean, at the end of the day, that's why they're in businesses. That's why they're private equity. They got to make money back to their investors, but they're taking a wholesome approach to it. Then you got other private equity groups that come in and, let's just cut costs as much as we can. Let's make it as profitable as we possibly can over the next 5 years, and then we'll sell it off to a bigger company. But, there's good ones and there's bad ones out there. But the thing is that I don't know. I don't know where it's going to be heading if everybody starts, private equity groups grow too big.
Right.
The
other thing, so I'm talking about just my town where my community is. Probably in the last 4 to 5 years, there's been 3 repair shops that have sold, not including the one that I bought. And then there's probably 3 or 4 more for sale right now that I can think of. Also, at the end of last year, I mean, I guess I wouldn't classify them as private equity, but there's a company called Gills Point S that jumped up a couple of years ago. It was like, we want to have, I think, 500 shops in 50 states in 5 years. And so they bought out another company that's big in Colorado, New Mexico, Texas, and wherever, called Peerless Tire, and bought them out. And then within 2 weeks of that, Les Schwab bought out a regional 4-store chain, if you will, here in town in the surrounding area. And so that all happened. So if you think you're in a small town, like we're in like 20,000 people, if you're in a small town and you think that other shops around you are not for sale, I can tell you they are, either publicly or privately or whatever. People that have been in this business for a while want to get out for whatever reason. So their shops are out there to buy. You just have to find them.
Yeah. Now the question is, are they good shops?
Right.
And
you have to look at
they're realistic on the price. Yeah. And that's why people are listening. If you're thinking about selling, even if you're not thinking about selling, be prepared to sell. And you never know.
Always be prepared to sell. I also wanted to ask you, we talked about you niching down just to serve auto repair markets. And in my mind, that makes you head and shoulders above some of these other people. But why should people choose you instead of like somebody from Biz Buy Sell or some of those places?
That's a good question. So there's a lot to that. The first thing is like, think about what I do. And there's a lot of different things that we do as a broker, tons. But one of the things we do is we're matching up the seller and the buyer. And so if you've got a manufacturing business for sale, and you got an auto repair business for sale, and a pizza shop, and this kind of business, that kind of business, and then you're trying to match up buyers. Think like the solitaire game. You pick up a card, you pick up another card, you got a match, you put them aside. You get another match, put them aside. You don't have a match, put the cards back down. If you're dealing with all these different types of businesses, it's harder to make those matches. If you're specializing in one vertical or 2 verticals, like myself, I specialize in 2 verticals, it's easier to make those matches. Now, on top of that, I also know what questions to be asking the owner of an auto repair business or a collision shop or a tire company. I know exactly what buyers are looking for, the key things. So I know questions to ask. I know how to gear the information that buyers are going to want, how to present that information so that they can digest it very, very quickly. Because going back to those private equity groups that I was telling you about, they might on a very high level look at thousands of businesses a year, look more in depth to a couple hundred, but only buy a few. So you want to make sure that how that information is presented, that they can grasp it quickly, fast, and they want to pursue more information about that. And then you're just knowing the business all the way around. It's just, I don't know why you would want to list your auto repair shop or collision shop, tire shop, lube and oil, whatever it is, with just a general business broker. Just because they're in your backyard, they live in the same city that you live in.
I don't even think it's that, because a lot of times I see business brokers where they're not even in the same locality, but you look and they're like, okay, they've got a laundromat, a repair shop, a donut shop, a franchise of this, a franchise of that, and then whatever. When I look at like Biz Buy Sell and stuff, like outside of you guys, it's the only option out there. And so it's a terrible option, but it's the only option you have. I guess that's where a lot of people are just like, okay, well, this is the only option I have, so that's what I'm going to choose. So thank you for starting and giving them another option.
Me and my team sell 90% of the business we take to the market, where national average is only 10 to 20% sell. I'm going to tell you, we are a team. I have a whole team behind me. Most brokers is just an individual.
Right.
I've got a closing coordinator. I got a buyer's agent. I got a listing manager. Got an assistant. And then on 1099 or subcontract as needed basis, I've got a writer and a graphic designer. So you have a whole team, not just one person. And we have great strategies and processes, and really great strategies and processes. We are in the upper echelon, but it starts with that we're selective about the businesses that we take on. It's got to be a good business. The seller's got to be realistic about the sales price. And so when we're going to a buyer that's worked with us in the past, they know that, okay, this shop may not be for us for some reason, but we know it's going to be a good one because it's coming from them. Because we're not the type of business broker that just lists everything and anything out there and throws crap at them all the time, which most of the businesses for sale, like if you go to Biz Buy Sell, like 80% of them are bad businesses or they're overpriced or both. They have that reputation going to these buyers saying, hey, this just became available. And they might be like, hey, it's not for us, but they know it's a good one at least.
Right. I'm very wary of the shops on Biz Buy Sell because most of them seem to be in trouble and they need out. I think that's why you kind of like go to them or whatever. Thanks for joining me today. I think this is awesome. Can you tell everybody how to find you if they're interested in contacting you, and go ahead and list in all your social media and everything else as well?
Okay, that'd be great. I appreciate that. So my website is theautorepairboss.com. Make sure you put the in there. Theautorepairboss.com. You can also find me on Facebook and LinkedIn, theautorepairboss.com. And please feel free to call me on my cell phone at 407-927-8999. I'd love to chat with you, and everything will be confidential.
Any parting shots?
I just want to say that, again, I want to reiterate that if you're thinking about retiring in a few years, you definitely need, whether you talk to me or you talk to somebody like me, you need to talk to an M&A advisor, a business broker that specializes in auto repair businesses, that's very seasoned, very experienced. Again, it doesn't have to be me. But it's got to be somebody like me, so that you do it right, you do it properly, you make sure that you're actually able to sell when you're ready to pull the trigger. Not only be able to sell, but you maximize the sales price, you get the best terms possible. And just as important, you're not looking over your shoulder post-closing, and afraid things are going to come and bite you in the butt. And you want to make sure, you want the best price and get good terms. You want to make sure you get a good buyer that's going to be a good cultural fit for your employees.
Hey, that's a great note to end on. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jim. And everybody, you got his information. Reach out if you're interested in selling, and good luck out there.
Thank you, Chris.
I'd like to give another shout out to our sponsor, Shop Marketing Pros. They are the only marketing company I recommend, and they handle all of the marketing for my shop as well. If you're serious about growth, you need strategies that actually work. Better websites, higher Google rankings, and ads that bring real customers through your doors. I want you to go visit shopmarketingpros.com/Chris and partner with a team that understands your business, because every great shop deserves marketing that's just as great. I want to thank you for tuning into the Weekly Blitz. Remember, it's time to rise, grind, and keep your mindset positive, everybody. Till next time, this is Coach Chris Cotton signing off.
You've been listening to the Weekly Blitz with Coach Chris Cotton on the AftermarketRadioNetwork.com. Follow Chris on your favorite podcast listening app. Let him know what you'd like him to cover. His email is in the show notes. Chris is all for advancing the aftermarket.